Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. Today we're gonna try something new. I don't know if this is the thing that people do, but this idea just came into my head the other day. But I'm going to be, in a way, speed dating my own physical TBR. I feel like as we've been moving through this TBR takedown adventure that we have been going through over the past few months, I have at many times found myself just at a loss as to what book I should pick up next. And as a mood reader, which I think many of us are, sometimes it just feels like such an impossible task to pick up your next book. So I want to try this experiment where I speed date my TBR today, and that'll help me inform my decisions in the future on what I want to pick up. So how it's gonna work is I'm gonna go through the books that I have here. I'm gonna read maybe more than just the first sentence, but I'm gonna read maybe the first few sentences or maybe the entire first paragraph, depending how long it is. I'm gonna rate that first bit of the book, maybe out of 10 or something, just for fun. And the hope is that the next time I come to this TBR cart and I'm like, what do I want to pick up next? I will have a better idea because I will have read the first little bit of the book already. Now, there are quite a few books on my physical TBR. I think there's still over 50, which, you guys, is such a nice, lovely number, seeing as we started this TBR takedown journey at 101 books. But we're gonna get through as many as we can. And if this is something that ends up being fruitful for me and is something that you enjoy watching, let me know and maybe we can make this a reoccurring thing. But let's start at the top here. So there are some continuations of series on my TBR that I'm not going to speed date because, number one, I've already read a book in that series, so I already know what the writing style is going to be like. I know what the mood is going to be like. And also, number two, I feel like reading the first few sentences of a sequel definitely has lots of potential to spoil things for many of you if you have not read these particular series. So we're gonna skip these continuations, but let's start over here. This one I actually just received from the publisher. This is The Other Side of Now by Paige Harbison. It's like a magical realism fiction with a romance plot in there about a girl who walks into this sort of parallel universe and basically has a second chance at, first of all, a life for her best friend and also some type of a romance, I think. Well, let's just read the first couple of sentences together. So we start off with a prologue, and this is 15 years ago. I pulled the trigger over and over as the increasingly feeble stream of water fails to propel my tiny horse as fast as I want it to go. Come on, I say, baring my teeth, which are still sore from today's orthodontist appointment, not taking my eyes off the bullseye for a moment. Amy's horse lurches ahead even farther, and that's when I notice that she's doubled over me, cracking up, her finger not even on her accelerator gun. Mine's broken, she says, laughing between gasps, and points at her ghostly horse, racing on speedily without her assistance. Okay, so immediately this sets the mood. Obviously this is a prologue, so we're definitely gonna jump forward in time, but it sounds like right off the bat we're establishing this friendship that our main character has with her friend. I would rate this maybe like a 6 out of 10. It's not overly exciting, but I think that's okay. I think this is the type of the story where you slowly move through the plot and get more character development. So I think that makes sense with a book like this. But just seeing how this first little bit is written, I feel like this book's gonna be a really emotional one. And I do agree with this writing style. That was pretty good, Paige Harbison. All right, next up, we're going to date The Love Haters by Katherine. So this is a summery romance set on a beach, and we have some sort of reality show with lifeguards. Chapter 1. It was quitting time on a Friday, but Cole Hutchison didn't care. Nobody cared too much right then, in fact, because we were all about to be laid off, or too many of us were. Anyway, that's when Cole showed up at my cubby, perched on the edge of my desk, and asked if I wanted to spend a few weeks in Key West filming a video about a US Coast Guard rescue swimmer. My answer, of course, was sure. Did I know what a rescue swimmer was? Could I locate Key West on a map? Could I tell you anything about the US Coast Guard other than it had something to do with guarding the coast? Did I even like the ocean? All no. But it didn't matter. That's how it was in this business, the cutthroat world of mid-level video production. Whoa, I feel like we basically set up for the entire plot with those few sentences. We have our main character. We haven't learned that much about our main character, but we have met her. We have set up for the premise of the story. We're gonna go to Key West and film this Coast Guard show. We've set up that our main protagonist is very like career oriented, and we also know that she is going to know nothing about this job, and she's probably probably going to need help. And that help is probably going to come from her love interest. I think that was pretty good. I think I'm gonna give that like a 7.5 out of 10 for an opening paragraph. I just think that was really efficient in just immediately telling you what the story is going to be like and where we are going to go. So yeah, no delay on that one. Let's go over to The Names by Florence and Knapp. This one is a literary fiction with a really interesting premise. So we follow a mother in the story, Cora, and she sets off with her 9-year-old daughter as well as her newborn son, I believe. But when faced with the decision to name her son, we split up into these 3 parallel alternate timelines where each timeline follows a possibility of her and her family's life, all depending on what she decided to name her son. I've actually really wanted to pick this book up ever since I got it, but I just have not been able to get to it yet. But let's read the prologue, which is set in October 1987. Cora's mother always used to say children were whipped up by the wind, that even the quiet ones would come in after playtime, made wild by it. Cora feels it in herself now, the restlessness. Outside, gusts leave her at the fir trees behind the house and burst down the side passage to hurl themselves at the gate. Inside, too, worry Skitter and Eddie, because tomorrow, if morning comes, if the storm stops raging, Cora will register the name of her son, or perhaps, and this is her real concern, she'll formalize who he will become. Ooh, I feel like this is a book you definitely want to read a little bit slower, but I think that was a really good first paragraph. I immediately love how descriptive her writing is, describing the restlessness, using the wind, kind of introducing that as a parallel with children. I'm gonna give that a solid 8 out of 10. I think that was an amazing start, and that honestly, this book has jumped even higher on my TBR, so love that. Okay, a little bit of a different tone with the next one. We have This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. This is a fantasy series that I have been needing to get into, but I have not started yet. And I know Tahereh Mafi is really famous for her Shatter Me series, which is a series that I have never read before, so I genuinely have no idea what her writing style is like, but we're about to find out. Ooh, we have this little blurb at the beginning of the book. I'm not gonna count that as the actual like first sentence, first paragraph of the book, because it seems like a little bit of a, just kind of like a pre-forward, if that makes sense. So let's start with chapter 1. We'll read the first paragraph. Eliza, I don't know how to pronounce this name immediately, but it's A-L-I-Z-E-H. I'm gonna say Eliza. That's how my brain wants to pronounce it, but okay. Eliza stitched in the kitchen by the light of star and fire, sitting, as she often did, curled up against the hearth. Soot stained her skin and skirts in haphazard streaks, smudges along the crest of a cheek, a dusting of yet more darkness above one eye. She didn't seem to notice. Eliza was cold. No, she was freezing. She often wished she were a body with hinges, that she might throw open a door in her chest and fill its cavity with coal, then kerosene, strike a match. That immediately set the mood for this book. I am immediately in. It didn't tell us much about the plot, but it just gave this immersive environment. Feeling kind of cold now though, and it's in the middle of the summer. I think I'm also gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I think this is really solid, and I most definitely need to pick up this book. This next one is going to be quite interesting, I think. This one is called Maggie, or A Man and a Woman Walk into a Bar by Katie Yee. And the premise of this is another literary fiction, but at the beginning of the book, we follow a married couple as they walk into a restaurant, and the husband tells the wife that he's been having an affair with a woman named Maggie. The wife finds out she has breast cancer and ends up naming her tumor Maggie. And I think we go on this big healing recovery journey with the wife. So definitely sounds like an extremely character-driven book, but I am so curious as to what the writing style of this one will be like, because the premise sounds a little quirky, to be honest. Like the fact that the wife not only found out that her husband was having an affair, but then went on to name her tumor that she has the same name as the woman that her husband is having an affair with. Definitely an interesting choice, and that definitely sounds quite quirky. So let's see what this writing style is like. Chapter 1. I was folding linens when I first found out my children don't think I'm funny. I was by the hall closet, overhearing them asking my husband for a bedtime story. This was after I'd already read them Where the Wild Things Are, a book they used to love so much the pages were starting to pull from their binding. He reminded them of this, a good husband, and they told him, "You'll tell it better." And so he did. a better father. The thing I noticed that was peculiar about my husband's telling was that the characters were all out of sorts. Max doesn't sail away from his room in the usual boat. A bald boy named Harold shows up, paddling past an ill-drawn dinghy, clutching a purple crayon. As my husband tells it, they sail off together but lose their way. They float for what feels like days until they happen upon an island they come to know as Neverland, where a ragtag gang of boys their age pulls them in. They were lost boys all along. Go figure. That quirky style is definitely coming through immediately, just with all of the children's tales being blended together. That's definitely an interesting way to start a book. Does this tell me anything of like where the story will go? No, I'm still very, very confused. But I think in a weird way that's also pulling me in and it's making me want to read more. I think out of all these books that I've read the first few sentences of so far, this one, for some reason, it has pulled me in the most. I think because it has given us so little, it's just making me very curious to go on. So I'm gonna give this an 8.5 out of 10. I did mention that the story I think is going to be more character driven, and these first few sentences definitely just gave us full character. Like we met her husband, we met her kids, we learned something about the interaction between all of them, how the husband is seemingly a good husband, a perfect father. Even the kids prefer him, and so immediately I already feel bad for the wife, knowing what is coming her way. So this immediately, yeah, has me feeling bad for her already with just a few sentences. So love that. Definitely curious to read more of that one. And then these, okay, these are continuations of series. Oh, you know what? I have some books behind. So ooh, I'm so curious about this one. So this is The Compound by Rawle. This is like a mystery fiction. We're set on a desert island and we have a reality show going on. And the blurb for this says, Love Island meets Lord of the Flies. And it's just got me all sorts of intrigued. I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, it tends to actually be reality TV. So this book about reality TV is definitely intriguing. And I think just with the setting of a desert island and mystery and the things that can go wrong with reality TV, I am so curious about this one. So let's read the first bit of part 1, Chapter 1. I woke up first. There was no particular significance to it, only that I've always slept poorly and generally wake early in the morning. I had no way to tell the time, but I thought that I had slept a while. My limbs were heavy and stiff from a long, motionless sleep. The room was dark and windowless, with only a small skylight directed above my bed. Though it didn't smell of sleep or musk, it smelled fresh and airy, as if it had been recently cleaned. I thought I could detect the slightest trace of air freshener, citrus-scented or maybe pine. There were 10 beds, though only one aside from my own was occupied. The girl in the bed across from me was slowly emerging from sleep. She sat up and looked at me. She was beautiful, but that was to be expected. Ooh. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. This immediately, I need to know what's going on. How did our characters get here? Were they drugged and woke up here, or did they willingly go here and this was just like the first day on the island? I need to know more about the setting. I want to know like what's around this cabin or wherever they are in, like where they're sleeping currently. Why are there 10 beds but only 2 people on this island so far? When and how are these like other reality show contestants going to arrive? I'm excited. I need to read this one ASAP. I should read all of these ASAP. I need more time in the day. Okay, and we have Passion Project by London Sperry. This is a debut romance. It's set in New York City, I think. Yeah, it's set in New York City. I think we have some sort of friends to lovers arc, and I have been loving friends to lovers lately. I think I'm honestly just a little bit tired of reading the same enemies to lovers over and over and over again. So I'm in my friends to lovers phase for now, okay? But let's see what the Passion Project is like. Okay, chapter 1, the first sentence. I've been betrayed by pasta carbonara. Okay, tell me more. I sit back on my heels, trying not to tip over and smack my head on the bathroom wall, or worse, the rim of the green ceramic toilet in front of me. Dean Martin's voice wafts through the speakers, an embarrassing reminder of where I am, the bathroom of a fast casual Italian restaurant on the Lower East Side. And I just puked my guts out in their toilet like a frat boy. I wipe my chin and press the flush tab, wincing at the seasick feeling of the room rocking back and forth. I lied before. It's not really the pasta's fault. it was the wine. It was the 2.5 bottles of Chianti I slurped back like one of the Real Housewives. Who on earth told me I could afford that? One single glance at my bank account could make me vomit again, I'm sure. I squeezed my eyes closed and cradled my head in my hands. It's like my stomach knew to expel any evidence of tonight's disaster from my body. I mean, from the "I've been betrayed by pasta carbonara" sentence at the very start, I was already sold. Definitely a different mood than The Compound. But I think with these friends to lovers rom-coms, starting out with a sentence a little bit absurd and a little bit random, I think works really well for me, because what was it in Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone? The first sentence was like, "This baby hates me," or just something that's, you know, it's very sensational. It's like a little bit funny and makes you go like, huh? Like what the heck is going on? And so this first sentence being, "I've been betrayed by pasta carbonara," I loved. And we're definitely starting off at, you know, not a good point in our FMC's life. I'm gonna give this one a solid 8. I feel like I've been rating everything so nice. The thing is, I tend to not hate books on first impression. It's hard for me to like read a first sentence of a book and just be like immediately no. I tend to open books and start them with optimism, hoping that they will be wonderful reads. And so when I start reading a book, it starts at like an 8. Usually around there, and depending on how it goes, it can move up or it can move down. I thought this was a cute start. Okay, we're on to shelf 2. I actually found this book in a little free library near me, which I think was a pretty good find. It's in really good condition, and I've heard a few things about this book. Mixed opinions, but I'm definitely curious to see what this one's all about. So this is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Odessa Moshfegh. I'm so sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce that last name. I will need to look that one up later. This is a fiction, the shocking and strangely tender story of a young woman's efforts to duck the ills of the world with the help of one of the worst psychiatrists of literature. I've heard people really dislike the characters in this book, but maybe that's kind of the point. Chapter 1. Whenever I woke up, night or day, I'd shuffle through the bright marble foyer of my building and go up the block and around the corner where there was a bodega that never closed. I'd get 2 large coffees with cream and 6 sugars each. Chug the first one in the elevator on the way back up my apartment, and then sip the second one slowly while I watched movies and ate animal crackers and took trazodone and Ambien and Nembutal until I fell asleep again. I lost track of time in this way. Days passed. Weeks. A few months went by. When I thought of it, I ordered delivery from the Thai restaurant across the street or a tuna salad platter from the diner on First Avenue. I'd wake up to find voice messages on my cell phone from salons or spas confirming appointments I'd booked in my sleep. I'd always call back to cancel, which I hated doing because I hated talking to people. Fair enough. I also highly dislike talking to people, especially, I mean, not all the time, but especially on the phone. Those service calls that you have to make appointments or cancel appointments. They just give me anxiety. I might rate this one maybe like a 4 out of 10. I feel like this one, it's not making me want to pick it up and continue reading, to be honest, which is funny. I literally just said I generally like books until they make me dislike them. But this one I just feel like did not give me much, and not in a good way, where some of these other first paragraphs I've read have not given me much, but in a way that makes you be like, ooh, like gives you a little bit of a lead on as to what's going on. This one kind of gave a little bit of nothing, which makes sense because I can see this book being one of those stories that just grows on you slowly. You have to take your time with it, you have to trust the process, and then one day it clicks. So in terms of the first paragraph, maybe a 4 out of 10. Our first speed date, that's under a 5. I think there is definitely much more to the story, and we will get there as we read more. Okay, let's do The Dagger in the Flame by Katherine Doyle. This one I think was quite popular around a year ago. I don't remember when this one came out, but I remember quite a few people talking about this one. It is a romantasy. Ooh. Cool map though. Very like detailed map with the illustrations. Ooh, and we have a list of players with a lot of stuff going on. Part 1, we have a prologue. The prologue is called Before. Out beyond the glittering city of Fantôme, in the wild heart of the plains, the midnight moon hung like a lantern in the sky, bathing the farmhouse that belonged to Seraphine Marchand's mother in a soft silver glow. The light crept in through Seraphine's window and danced along the pages of her book, and for a moment she imagined the curious moon was reading over her shoulder. She turned a page, the words blurring as her eyelids grew heavy heavy. She should be asleep, but she couldn't rest at such a crucial point in the story, even if she had read it 8 times already, even if at 18 years old she was too old for fairy tales. Pippin slumbered at her feet, warming her toes. As a dog of considerable age and with only 3 legs to carry him, he had no interest in the inky whispers of imagined adventures. He cared chiefly for naps, river sprats, and on occasion farmer parents' chickens. Oh, I really like this immediately. I really like, what is this book about? I've completely forgotten what this even is about. Okay, in the dark underbelly of a beautiful city, 2 rival gang members are pitted against each other in a deadly game of duty and revenge, in which the most dangerous mistake is falling in love. That sounds really intense. I feel like this first paragraph gives cozy fantasy because we have Seraphine, who is living in a farmhouse. That sounds so cozy. She's reading a book. Immediately right off the bat, she seems like a softer, gentler character. Like, she's just a book girly like the rest of us, and she's reading fairy tales. She also can't sleep because she's at a really crucial point in this fairy tale, which is so totally relatable, and she has a dog. Why does this sound so cozy, and when does it become high stakes? I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. I really like this. Maybe things will shift and twist on literally the next page, and maybe something, oh, you know what? This was probably a setup for something horrible to happen. Like, her entire family is going to get captured, or her farmhouse is going to burn down. Oh no, now I'm just traumatizing myself because that sounded so lovely and cozy. Like, you're just in bed in a farmhouse, there's like nature around you and like the sound of chickens, and you're reading your favorite book and your dog's cuddling with you, and then your farmhouse burns down. And it's called The Dagger and the Flame. There is fire in, oh no. My imagination, you guys. Watch, the farmhouse actually does burn down. I can't keep reading. I can't, but we're gonna have to pick this one up soon to find out if the farmhouse is okay. All right, let's go over to this next one. We have Nightweaver by R.M. Gray. This is another romantasy, but this one is like a pirate romantasy, which sounds like so much fun. Part 1 in the POV of Mercy. No, it's not in the POV of Mercy. It is just part 1 is called Mercy. I am not fast enough. When the alarm rings out, warning of the attack, Owen was already armed and racing up the companionway of our family's ship. Don't worry, little mouse. My brother casts a wry smile over his shoulder as he tucks the knave of clubs playing card, his lucky card, as he calls it, up his sleeve, dirty blonde hair tumbling into his tawny eyes. I'm sure there will be something for you to do. I groan, stuffing daggers and pistols into every holster and sheath strapped to my body. Greedy pirate, I call after him, a smirk tugging at my lips. Owen, the eldest of my 6 siblings and me, always claims the glory of first victory in battle and the best loot. But I never complain, and neither do my brothers and sisters, because there is no one I trust more to protect what our parents have fought so hard to secure. A home aboard the finest vessel a pirate could hope for, crewed by the 9 of us, free to sail the western sea and safe from the monsters that live on land. Oh, this sounds like so much fun. Definitely a more intense start than The Dagger and the Flame. Sounds like we are in mid-battle immediately on this pirate ship, and it sounds like we're gonna have a lot of family dynamics in this because we're meeting the family immediately. We have 6 siblings, and they're all sailing a pirate ship together. I love that. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. There's just something about family and siblings and like sibling dynamics and sibling rivalry that I just find so much fun to read. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, guys, the time has come. Shall we? This book is ridiculous, you guys. Why is it so short and small, but then so thick at the same time? The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, okay? Stormlight Archive, book 1. This mass market paperback copy is 1,200 pages long. Prelude to the Stormlight Archive. So we have another prologue here, and oh my goodness, you guys, let me show you a normal page. Look at these margins. Pardon me, why are the margins like a millimeter wide? Okay. At least, you know what? It's not that heavy because it's so small. Calic? The constant struggle with fantasy names. Calic rounded a rocky stone ridge and stumbled to a stop before the body of a dying thunderclast. What's that? The enormous stone beast lay on its side, rib-like protrusions from its chest broken and cracked. The monstrosity was vaguely skeletal in shape, with unnaturally long limbs that sprouted from the granite shoulders. The eyes were deep red spots on the arrowhead face, as if created by a fire burning deep within the stone. They faded. Even after all these centuries, seeing a thunderclast up close made Kalak shiver. The beast's hand was as long as a man was tall. He'd been killed by hands like those before, and it hadn't been pleasant. Of course, dying rarely was. Oh, okay. So Kalak, or however you say his name, is an immortal. Clearly, he's died many, many times and resurrected back to life. I'm curious as to what sort of a creature Kalak is. I'm sure we will find out. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Solid. I think I need to read more. Definitely very classic style of fantasy writing immediately. I don't know, just the way Brandon Sanderson writes seems very just pure fantasy. It's not overly ambient at all. For example, like when we read this Woven Kingdom, that was a lot more moody, atmospheric. And then when we started Dagger in the Flame, again, kind of just, it gave more of the environment, of the vibe. Brandon Sanderson just jumps straight into the adventure, straight into the action, and it's just very, very solid fantasy. So yeah, definitely just, I need to pick this book up. I know. But I think reading this first paragraph has helped me feel more motivated to pick this book up. All right, Assistant to the Villain by Nicole Maehrer. This one, oh my gosh. One of you told me a really, really good comparison for this book, like compared to another book or another movie or another show or something. And it was such a good description and I loved it so much, but I can't remember what you said now. Oh, but this one follows, what's her name? Evie. And she gets a job under a villain. Essentially, she's an assistant to the villain. And she starts developing a crush on her boss. And I've heard many wonderful things about this one. So let's read a little bit. Okay, we have another prologue here. Once upon a time, it was an ordinary day when Evie met the villain. Another failed attempt at the job fairs in her village. Another day with no source of income. Another day she was letting her sick father and little sister down, which was why her mind was preoccupied as she wandered to the trees lined like fences at Hickory's forest edge and walked right in. The forest had once been frequently populated, but was now the very last place anyone with common sense would choose to wander, especially alone. Well, unless your name was Evangelina Sage, and a forbidden forest seemed far more inviting than going home and admitting to your family that you'd finally found a job and given it away. Ooh, I actually really like that. I'm gonna give this one a 7.5. out of 10. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a silly read immediately right off the bat. Just how it starts with, it was an ordinary day when Evie met the villain. Like that immediately just sets the tone of a book that's going to be a little bit quirky, a little bit funny, but I think we're gonna have a good tie-in with the emotions here as well because she has a sick father and a little sister that she's trying to cover and care for, and we love a forbidden forest environment. Moral of the story of this video is that I need more time to read. I don't think I can get Throne of the Fallen by Kerry Maniscalco out of this cart without disassembling. So let's go with Red Rising as our last speed date today. So Red Rising by Pierce Brown, a series that I am desperate to get started into because I've heard so many good things. I believe it is a dystopian sci-fi. So let's read the first little bit. I would have lived in peace, but my enemies brought me war. I watched 1,200 of their strongest sons and daughters, listening to a pitiless golden man speak between great marble pillars, listening to the beast who brought the flame that gnaws at my heart. All men are not created equal, he declares, tall, imperious, an eagle of a man. The weak have deceived you. They would say the meek should inherit the earth, that the strong should nurture the gentle. This is the noble lie of democracy, the cancer that poisoned mankind. Oh, that's a 9 out of 10. That was so good. I feel like that gave equal parts ambient atmosphere as well as set the tone of the book as well as told us a little bit about the world. And I feel like this balance of descriptive writing as well as like giving you information really agrees with me. It is like the perfect balance for me so far. So I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. And I need to read this. That being said, I think we're gonna leave it there for now. So I have gotten through, I don't know, roughly half of my physical TBR in speed dates. I love that the only one that I didn't actually quite enjoy was My Year of Rest and Relaxation. But again, I feel like that book is probably just more of a slow burn type of a book. So just because the first paragraph of it maybe doesn't hit that hard, I don't think that'll be telling of what the rest of the book is like. And also the fact that I only had really one miss out of everything that we've looked at today, I think is a wonderful thing, because that means I am getting better at picking books to read that I know I will enjoy to a certain extent. So that was a success. If you did enjoy this speed dating with a books idea, let me know if you liked it. If you have any ideas on how to make this type of a video more fun, more informative, any suggestions that you have, if you want to see any more speed dates with books, let me know. And if you did like this video, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know out of all of these speed dates, which speed date you think would have been the most successful for you. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!